Welcome to Hashtag Analytics, a conversation between two individuals, one that's super passionate and one that's super opinionated, both around the topic of analytics. And I'm Ann Jackson. Luke, what are we talking about today, and who do we have with us?
Yes, today we have two Iron Viz champion alumni. We've got Tristan Guillevin and Curtis Harris, both joining us for a lively discussion, probably on Iron Viz, but also on a couple of other topics.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So, guys, Luke and I talk a lot about Iron Viz. We're obviously obsessed with the competition. What do you think about our obsession? Do you guys share it with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I think anyone who knows me in the community would know that the answer is like a resounding yes. So much so, like I'm still participating for whatever reason and trying to do it again, which is some would call kind of insane to want to do that again. So yeah, totally obsessed. I think about that all year long. I back pocket data sets and ideas for it. So yeah, it's beginning to be a bit of a problem for me.
So overly obsessed, Curtis Harris, constantly thinking about it. Tristan, you're on the same level as Curtis.
I have the advantage of being in Europe, so I have a new contest for me to win. It's Iron Viz Europe. So for the moment, I'll focus on that one, maybe.
I like the confidence, Tristan. A new one for you to win. That's
a new one for me to win. Yes.
So there's obviously a competitive spirit that I think runs through all of us. So what keeps you guys coming back? I mean, you win, you get this title, you own it for a year. Tristan, why do you want to win the European Iron Viz?
No, honestly, for me, I participate to the Iron Viz first because I wanted a ticket to the Tableau conference. And you can ask the same question to Ludovic. For us French, it's really hard to get to the United States to go to the Tableau conference. It's 1 week where when we can't work. So I think for majority of European people trying to compete, it's to get a ticket to the conference. And that's my main goal. That was my main goal. And now for the Iron Viz Europe, it's more because I really liked being an Iron Viz contestant. And yeah, if I can live that again, sure I would. But it was mostly just to get to the Tableau conference.
That's it's pretty crazy though, right? Because you like your original goal is let me just get a ticket so I can go to the conference, but obviously that's you made it on stage, you won, and it's completely altered your legacy within the community. Now it's like a champion.
It's the thing I said at the Tableau conference this year. It's sometimes hard to get a voice in the community because there are so many people and everyone has something to say. So at the beginning, it was mostly for fun, and maybe I will explain also why I decided to compete after. But yeah, once you get that exposure of the Iron Viz, and once you have 15,000 eyes on you, and you have to show them something in Tableau, yeah, you get a voice, and it's exactly what I said. You have to do something, and now you can. I think I can help new people, and it's like I'm part of the community now, I think, and it's really Iron Viz that gave me the entrance to the community. So it was my entrance door to the community. It was through the Iron Viz.
Awesome. You're both very competitive, and is that just natural for the two of you, or is that something like the Iron Viz competition has become almost like an addiction and you have to feed this new craving because you guys made it on stage, you won, and now it's like, I need to enjoy that moment again?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, for me, personally, like I grew up playing all different kinds of sports, and as many kids who do that, they think like one day I'm going to be playing with Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whoever, right? And that doesn't usually work out, right? It's really hard to become a professional athlete. So I kind of always had like that competitive spirit And Iron Viz is like this way that someone who has that spirit, or really anyone, I guess, but like I can continue to fuel that with Iron Viz. Like in a way, if you win that for a year, you can say, I'm the best in the world at something. You know, and that's totally subjective, right? That's not exactly true, but you won this premier contest in your profession. So like, it's just like my little pipe dream playing out in what I actually became good at instead of basketball or baseball or whatever. Like I'm good at Tableau, and let me use that to be competitive and kind of keep that athletic spirit alive. So that's why I do it.
So keeping with the sports analogies, it seems like this is the World Series or the Super Bowl or the...
For me, I mean, there's no other contest for us really. I mean, there's award showcases and other things, but for Tableau specifically, this is it. Like this is the big thing you can do to prove yourself in a competition, right? Like you can get Zen Master, you can become an ambassador, you can do all these things to get recognized, but there isn't any other competition for Tableau specifically outside of Iron Viz. So it's just fun. I love to compete. So
I try to think about that because I think I see it very differently from Curtis, because it's not the competition part I liked. It's most to prove myself what I can do. So for example, last year at Iron Viz, I made the joke about me learning to play the guitar, and it was the truth. And when I start to learn something, I want to test to make it grow as far as I can. Okay, so when I start learning to play guitar, I said to myself, one day I want to do a concert in front of people, and it's my end goal. And when I start working in Strasbourg in Activision with Tableau, they show me the video of Shine, who compete in Iron Viz, and say, look at him, this is the highest you can, it's the highest you can reach in the Tableau community. In my point, Zen Master are far better than that. Okay, it's just the biggest exposure you can have. And I say, okay, if I'm going to work with Tableau for the next I don't know how many years, but if Tableau is now my focus, I want to try to get to that level. And after some years, I decided to try a feeder, and that's why I like it. It was to prove myself that I can do it, and how far, if I work hard, I can do. But I've never seen it as a competition between people. But it's I think while we were on stage with Jacob and Joshua, I didn't feel it like a competition myself. I feel it like mostly because it was my first Tableau conference, but like a family reunion, and like being part of it. And yeah, competing is fine, but I've never seen them as really competitors or contestants. More like just let's have fun and let's do something crazy on stage.
Yeah, actually, luckily this year I got to spend time hanging out with Corey Jones. He was on stage as a contestant this year, and we went to a basketball game the night before, and we talked through this exact thing. And I think Corey is very much in line with you, Tristan, where his competition wasn't the other contestants on stage. It was himself and being able to, can he execute what he envisioned in 20 minutes and get to a solution that he really wants, not only like deliver what he's designed in those 20 minutes, because obviously there could be potential nerves. You've obviously, from what I've heard, practiced it countless times where it's almost it's muscle memory, you know all your shortcuts. But also delivering that speech is a big component, and being able to hit that on stage is something that's maybe people don't necessarily think about in trying to do this.
I want to circle back
I-
on something that Tristan said because I don't want to lose it. So, Tristan, you had mentioned that winning Iron Viz or participating gave you a voice in the community. Can you talk a little bit about kind of pre-Iron Viz and how you contributed or interacted with the community and post Iron Viz and what that was like? And then, Curtis, I'd love to hear your experience as well.
Okay, so when I say a voice, it's about, if you talk about figures, before Iron Viz 100 followers, 2 days after the Iron Viz 1,000. So it's also difficult because I'm not used. I wasn't used to use Twitter. It's before the Iron Viz, I think I had 20 tweets. So, and after that, you say, okay, now those people are like following me because they think I can help them in some way. So let's do that. So I started going to the Tableau user groups in Paris, in Strasbourg, started doing presentation. And I was asking myself, okay, now that some people are following what I'm saying, I also need to say not ridiculous things all the time, but I need to be more serious and try to help. So I started a blog just after the Iron Viz too, and this year I started also I wrote a book. So it's like, okay, now you have that. It's maybe when you are in the Tableau conference, it's like a fan base. It's a bit strange sometimes, but it's just people who may listen to what you say. So you have to be careful about what you say, and if by any means you can help them to grow with Tableau, yeah, let's do it. So it's and also to promote some things. Like I really love what Chloe does with Viz for Social Good. I think it's really one of the best community projects we can have, because you are giving your time to really help other companies. So I really like this. So I try to participate to that and to show other people who also are following me now that, yeah, you have Viz for Social Good. Let's do it. And you, Curtis?
Yeah, that's awesome, Tristan. I have like a similar experience. I can't remember the numbers, I guess, but like you said, from 100 to 1,000 followers, like overnight almost. Like your phone, the night that you won, right, is constantly vibrate. So much that it gets like really annoying. So yeah, the whole concept of winning Iron Viz and having that opportunity give you a platform to impact others is totally true. I'm sure that Timothy's feeling the same right now. I'm sure that Shine felt the same the year before me. So it is cool to see that, like, having this contest give you this platform to where you can help other people. Tristan mentioned promoting Viz for Social Good, these other community projects that make a high impact across the world. I guess to take a different route, I've been using the following that I gained from Iron Viz as a way just to help people on a more individual scale. So since then, like every feeder, and I don't know if you experience this, Tristan, it'd be interesting to hear, like every feeder, I'll get, one or two people reaching out for feedback. Or Tristan, like yourself, when you won your feeder, you reached out almost immediately and like, hey, what advice can you give me to make this a better experience at my conference? So I've taken my opportunity as a way just to build others up, get people ready for this competition. It's important to me, the competition itself. And if others want to get invested in that, participate, whether they are participating just to be there or if they're participating to try and actually get to the conference and do the main stage event, I want to help people get there. And yeah, it seems like a good portion of my year is spent talking about that at this point. Like, it's pretty crazy. So right now it feels like a slow period, and then spring will come, and then we're just talking about Iron Viz for the rest of the year.
So then let's talk about, obviously we've seen the production quality of Iron Viz go up significantly in terms of what we're seeing on stage, right? Before, from what we can talk about this a little bit more, but from what I understood is that you had to use whatever the current data source is, the primary data source. You could technically weave in a secondary data source if you wanted. You couldn't prepare your calculations ahead of time or all the text. And this year, they introduced prep. You can prep your data ahead of time, bring in secondary data sources and blend it in, or join it in, union, whatever is sort of preparing of the data you can ahead of time. And then you could also have your function, any calculations and text prepared. So obviously they, from my point of view, really wanted to up the production value that could be gained in those 20 minutes. What did you like? Just like, what's your experience around that? How do you feel about those subtle changes?
Tristan, did you get a Word document or were yours written notes?
I was allowed to have written notes, but honestly, you practice so much that you know your calculation, and I only had to write 2 calculations, so that's okay. But just on a judging side, because this year I had to be part of the judge for the Iron Viz, and it was really difficult because the first 10 minutes, we were just seeing people copy pasting from Tableau to a document. So the first 10 minutes we just said, okay, let's wait they finish copy pasting. So it's true that at the end the results are they can be better because you can do much more work in 20 minutes if you can copy paste calculation and text and Xcode and things like that. And I think it's great for the end result when you have to judge on something that goes so fast. It's just you cannot read any calculation, you cannot read anything. So it's difficult. Let's see how next year in Iron Viz Europe, in Iron Viz Global, how it goes. But surely we will see like crazy things in the next few years.
Maybe I'm tied to my competition. Like I just always go back to how it was for me, and then that's like how it should be. But I really think like for the crowd's sake, I mean, like it is a show, right? It's the big event. It's a keynote, and the crowd is watching people copy and paste from Word. And I think it kind of takes away from it. Maybe it increases the production value in the end. There's better quality submissions, but I do think it takes away from the glamour of the competition. Like I distinctly remember, I'll expose myself a little bit here. Like we had written notes and I had some colors that I wanted to use. So I wrote down the RGB codes, but the crowd didn't know I had written notes necessarily. So it looked like I had those memorized, right? I just opened up my color, typed in the code, and I did that much work to memorize even like my colors that I wanted. So I think like that, I had sorry. I read a tweet after the competition, like, oh my gosh, he even memorized his color codes. That's crazy. But I don't think you get that with the Word doc, with the like advantages that the competition was given this year. So I kind of hope, like personally, I hope they take that away in future competitions. I just don't think it is true to what the competition was. I don't mind the whole prep thing, but the notes is like a big deal to me.
So what if there was a compromise on, say, that you're allowed a Word doc to insert as much as possible in the first 5-10 minutes before the screen flips on and you can see what's going on, and that doc just has to disappear? Because that, right, it's not necessarily there's the illusion that, right, you had notes in front of you, they had a Word doc. It's the illusion that you're pulling this from the top of your head, and if you're not referencing that document, that during when it flips to the screen, maybe that's the ability to keep that the majesty of the show.
The big thing for me is that a lot of the attendees, I wish I knew the numbers on this, but a lot of the attendees at conference are first-time attendees. And they come to this competition that we love, and they think like, we built this in 20 minutes for the first time. They think that Ludwig's geometry and trigonometry that he pulled out was the first time he saw that data. So I think like in that spirit, that's why I don't like the Word doc as much, because it definitely shows to the crowd like, oh, they really had some time to think about this. Where I think it just has a better like overall show quality if you really run it in the sense that we looked at this data for the first time right now and we just built our thing. So and for us like seasoned people that have been there, like we know that's not realistic. If you gave someone a new data set and asked them to build something in 20 minutes, we'd have like 2 bar charts and it wouldn't be very good, right? But for the newcomers, the people that were wanting to get excited about Tableau, to join the community, to get involved, like Iron Viz as a show is important. And I think like these little advantages, specifically like the Word doc, the copy and pasting, it just takes away from that.
I just want to add something. It's now I had to reproduce my Iron Viz dashboard in maybe not 20 but 25 minutes during the year, and quite recently too. So, and sometimes I say, yeah, I can show you, and I just open the Zillow data and I just rebuild the thing, and I don't have to copy paste anything because it's still in my memory. And I think it's still great to being able to at any moment with any Tableau, you just download the Zillow data and you can reproduce the viz. You don't have to copy paste anything.
That's awesome.
And I just want to point out how difficult it is to create a visualization in 20 minutes. I don't think anybody gives any of the contestants the amount of credit that's due, even if you've practiced and rehearsed it. Just to give you like my point of reference now is that right before this year's Iron Viz, there was a tips competition, and I was lucky enough to make it to the finals, and we had a 10-minute build a visualization, whatever you can like build some insights from Jeff Schaefer's Halloween data. And I built one area chart. I put 2 text boxes on it, and I added a link to a web page. And that's all I may have purposely took my time a little bit, but still it's like the amount you can get done in such little time, especially if there's any nerves, is like, you can't do much. You can't like build, I see contestants this year putting 14 different sheets onto a view, and it's like, that is very impressive because I can do like 3 in 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, you do learn some things about Tableau along the way. Like I remember just trying to save 5 seconds here and there, 10 seconds. And you just like figure out like, okay, let me think through all the different ways I could do this one task that I need to do and find the one that is the most optimal for my process, right? So I learned a lot just building and building and building over again for speed. And I still use some of those things today that I might not have even known about, like speed tips and to make my process better day to day.
Yeah, like, so that kind of segues to a really good question, is how did you prepare? Where did you spend most of your time preparing? Was it trying to find insights in the data, or was it more trying to find shortcuts? What is the timeline leading up to the actual competition look like for the two of you?
We got the data ahead of time, like everyone does. The data that I got was really pretty dry. Like there wasn't much to it at all. So after I got an initial understanding of the data, like I tried to spend my time figuring out how I could supplement the story. Like we were allowed in my round to bring in one external data source. Like Tableau Prep didn't exist at the time. So we could go out and grab any data we could find and add to our data. So knowing that the New York taxi data that I was provided was pretty, like boring for lack of a better word. Like I needed to go find something to lift it up and make it more interesting. And once I found that, then I spent the time like, okay, what's the story I found? What are the calculations I need to do? What kind of layout do I want? And then just how to piece together that dashboard. And I don't know if you had something similar, Tristan. I think Timothy did for sure, but like I had an Excel sheet that just had every single step listed out, and like start at this time, end at this time. It cost me 5 seconds, and I just kept a running total of how many seconds I had for each step. And my whole prep at that point was really just to get down to like 18 minutes to give me like room for error on stage with the nerves and all that.
I didn't prepare any Excel sheet. I didn't record myself doing it. I just know that I wanted to achieve it under 15 minutes to be sure that, but I wanted to reach that point where I can do it in 15 minutes, even if I only managed to do it once. And on stage, I think I finished 30 seconds before the end. So it was really because I was a perfect condition. So how did I practice? I think I received the data set something like 10 days before the Iron Viz, the competition. I needed to go to United States during the weekend. So I think the Saturday before the Tableau conference starts, I had my dashboards finished. I knew what I wanted to produce. Then I practice on the plane also, because it's not the best place to practice. So it was a good place actually, because you have people, you are in a tiny space. So if you can do it in 20 minutes on a plane, it's okay. I didn't achieve to do it in 20 minutes on the plane, but and when I get to my hotel room in during the Tableau conference, then I didn't practice the Tableau visualization much. For me, what I wanted to practice the most was the speech, because I think I'm able to do Tableau as much as Joshua and Jacob, but to tell the story of what I wanted to tell in front of so many people in English, it's for me that was my biggest challenge, more than Tableau. So I write my speech. I practice in front of a mirror. I practice with Jade, who was there also. And then after the Tableau conference, I listened to I listened to myself and say, okay, I should practice even more. But no, it's you always find mistakes, but it's okay.
I think you did a great job, because I remember thinking, is Tristan flirting with the crowd? I felt like you were trying to flirt with the crowd.
Yeah, it's you can include joke, and probably for you when it's your natural language, it comes like that. You can feel the crowd, and for me it was everything was quite scheduled and planned and written. And the fun part was when I start to play, to click on the play button, I didn't expect the crowd to cheer so much, and it interrupts my flow of speaking. So I had to put pause, because it was interrupting me while I was explaining something, and it wasn't part of the plan. So I didn't manage to change what I planned to say. So I just hit pause and wait for the crowd to finish. Okay, now we can start again. So it's
I also, so if we can go back to one thing, since we're talking about it, and I remember, do I remember correctly, did you try to insert some cows into your visualization somewhere? I thought like that was I don't think a lot of people caught that, but like that was a big, like, right, and devs on stage kept bringing up cows, and I just felt like that was such a subtle way to insert that into the visualization. I actually, like, I was like, you deserve to win just for being able to figure that out on the fly.
The thing is, when you compete in Iron Viz, you can't do much of the Tableau conference. So I only went to the keynote and to the devs on stage, and just having that small glimpse of what a Tableau conference is, the devs on stage was crazy. So, and yeah, after that, I tried to say, yeah, I was there. I was at the Tableau conference, even if you didn't see me much. I was there. So I tried to put the cow thing And also I asked the question to Kent because the day or the morning before he said that he wanted to buy a house in Seattle. So I just changed that to say, hey Kent, I heard that you want to buy a house in Seattle. Let's see if you can find it. So for me, it was also just me trying to say, I participate to the Tableau conference. I didn't stay in my hotel room all the time, but
going back to your presentation really quick, I think like that probably helped you in a way, the crowd reacting and like forcing that pause. Like when I looked back at yours, I showed your talk to my class last semester that I taught. And it really had like that Hans Rosling type of feel, like let's start the world, right? And then you pause and you like let people ingest what you just showed them. And then you talk about it again, right? So that's interesting to know that you didn't plan on having a pause like that, didn't plan on having the crowd react like that. So I think it's really cool. Like it provided your speech with a really cool effect.
So you said that the word, it's let's start the world, and that's really Hans Rosling's word when he's starting is, it was the first time I really see animation used in data visualization to show something, and it was so clear, and you get exactly what's the point of the people is trying to say. So I didn't put animation because of that, but if I had to use animation, yeah, let's show the people something. And I think when you visualize the crisis in real time, like how it happens, or it goes to the left and then to the right, it's you see it living. And I still really hard want animation on Tableau server and Tableau public.
That does bring up a point now. Like, one thing that we saw you bring that up, and it turns out like we did not expect to know that animation or pages was going to be such a great feature live, but really we should know that it does, right? We've made our visualizations dynamic in real time on stage. It's really, if you're thinking about you're playing the game of Iron Viz, it really is the smartest way to go. Like, find a way to engage your audience. You've got these giant TVs behind you. Let's use them to your advantage and make some things move as you're either talking or pausing to show that. And it's definitely going to highlight the data probably better than we could by hovering a mouse or interacting with it. It's just a different medium for interacting with the data. So that definitely is probably the way that individuals, when presenting on stage, and it's such a large stage too, it's not just like a small group of like 10 people, this is thousands of people. It's really what contestants should probably be doing.
So I have a question for you guys. Like, obviously I play the game. Luke, you mentioned it's a game. How much are you guys a student of the game? So, I mean, researching the judges on stage, really playing into those different categories of how Iron Viz is judged. What are your thoughts on that?
100% to what you said, and a student of the game. Like, I've talked with you and Luke extensively about this. Like, I think it's not perfect science. It's not science at all, right? But I think there is a winning recipe, and the feeders are simply just brutal. They're so hard to win. But I think there are ways you can set yourself up to have a better chance. Things that you mentioned, right? Like Tableau will give us these panel of guest judges that we can look into, right? So Nadia Bremer, I pulled one out of my head. Like, I know she was a judge, and she's a D3 data artist type of person. So maybe like a more design heavy, art heavy feeder entry would appeal to her if you made it to the top 10. And that's still kind of where the black box is. Like, I think that's the secret ingredient that no one really knows how to pass. Like, there's this initial round where you go to this panel of Tableau employees. And I recall a couple times this year, a lot of people were kind of shocked at some of the missing names in the top 10. So I think we still don't really know how to get past that. Like there's not a formula there, but if you plan like to build something good enough to get to the guest panel in the top 10, like you could look into who's judging it, right? Like everything's available online. You can find out information about these people and what they like and what their tastes are, and try to vault yourself to the top. Like if your end goal is really to get to the conference, I think you almost have to think about things like this. And maybe I'm overkill, but that's how I operate with a feeder.
For the feeder, for me it was really new because I participate to the Iron Viz Europe feeder when it was the first one. So when the Iron Viz Europe started, and it was about any data about anything European. So I went with the beer in Europe, Viz, because I like beer and I think it was on point. And I didn't make it to Iron Viz Europe. And first, my first idea was to ask Jade, because I knew her from the community in Paris. And I asked, so you know, because you were part of the, I don't know if she was part of the judging. No, I don't think so, but she get the info of the judging points for the feeders. And I asked, just tell me what was good at and what was not good. And she said design was really good. They really liked the beer thing. But you didn't bring any stories, and it was just nice, but nothing to, no stories behind. I said, okay, next feeder, I'll put the story in the middle. And I make, so for the first global Iron Viz feeder, it was the Safari Viz. And I said, okay, I will create a story. So it was really written as a story for kids or things like that. And I won. And only then I say, okay, maybe I need to do some research about the Iron Viz. And that's why I created the Iron Viz, showing all the previous feeder and winning Viz. So at the beginning, I only did the research for myself, and I said, okay, now I managed to find almost all the feeders and the Viz. Let's do a Viz about it. So I tried to do my research for the final, and I remember also asking you about what to do on stage and what to. And I asked Matt Francis. I remember asking lots of people about the final, because I was a bit stressed about it.
And I think like you made a point earlier, you know Tableau. Everyone up there on stage knows Tableau well enough. So I think your research process, like how can I make my speech better? How can I deliver this in the best way possible on stage? Like that was really smart. And I think that's what everyone should be thinking about. If you were lucky enough to get to that final 3, that's where you really need to execute, because everyone's going to execute Tableau really well.
Yeah. It's how to do things differently. And I remember you were the first to do a phone layout on stage. So it's like all the time really bringing something new that the people have never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So do you think on the big stage that the storytelling aspect, I mean, you guys have both judged this. For you, do you judge storytelling when someone's actually explaining what they built and why? Or is it standalone like in the feeders where you kind of submit it and then they judge it in a black, they judge it just kind of plain, without any vocal background?
I judged your competition, Tristan, based on the story you told on stage, not on the story that the Viz told by itself. That being said, like we weren't told to do it that way or a different way. I mean, you could interpret the storytelling requirement on the scorecard however you wanted to. But in the spirit of the competition, like I thought it made more sense personally to judge based on what the presenter was saying about their visualization, what story they could tell to the crowd that was there.
Yeah, exactly the same, because from the design and the analysis part are already judging the visualization itself.
So is storytelling the the path to victory then, if we're saying that everyone can do pretty good design and analysis because they know how to use Tableau? Is storytelling what puts you over the top? Is it crowd favorite? What do you think that, are they still all equally weighted?
I think the storytelling, it probably what wins the crowd, and it's a big plus in terms of points, the Twitter vote. And I think we discussed about it, Curtis, but animation helps to tell a story.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote this down, I think, in my blog post after the conference, but I have a strong hope to get back and convince the other two contestants to use animation. So we're all using it. It's a level playing field. And whoever happens to present first, I would hope to convince that person to tell the crowd that that is going to happen and to wait. Okay, we're all going to use animation. It's existed for a long time, whether you know it or not. And watch all three presentations before you vote. Because I do think Tristan's absolutely right on that the story is probably the way to win. It's definitely the way to win the crowd. Whoever delivers the best gets that crowd vote, and the crowd vote has perennially been told to win the competition, more or less, because it's a all or none point bonus. So whoever wins gets all the crowd points. It's not like a percentage of total basis. You get an extra 10%, and it can vault you to the top really easily because, like Tristan said, the judges are going to judge however they judge. Some people like one style design, another person likes a different style, and you have no idea what those scores are going to end up. So getting that extra 10%, if they keep it that way, is really crucial. And the story and the strength of story and how you can actually connect. Luke, you said Tristan flirted with the crowd. Connecting with 17,000 people is hard. And whoever can do that the best is going to get those points. And in all likelihood, you're going to end up winning because everyone on the stage does Tableau well.
So my big takeaways from this is, one, I obviously have participated in a few global feeders here in a row, and I don't do my research. I focus strictly on design and analysis. Is not that I need to focus on storytelling, which I obviously do, and I know that. But the two of you, in different ways, have gone about searching for feedback to better understand how to get on stage. You didn't necessarily, both of you, again, went different routes to get that information, but you both did it. And that helped you get there. And then when you were there, it seems like you both focused on areas where you knew you needed to spend time in order to get the votes on stage and win over the crowd.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the nuts and bolts of the competition, what it meant for you going through it. I'm really curious to kind of move past the competition and focus on what new goals you have for yourself and how you want to continue to contribute to the Tableau community, right? You've reached this achievement. Tristan, you're a very goal-oriented person. You mentioned it yourself. Curtis, obviously you have the same sort of approach. What are you guys planning on doing moving forward?
Well, and you just announced what I'm planning on doing moving forward an hour ago. So
enlighten our crowd.
Yeah. As you may or may not know, if you're listening to this, I'm helping with Workout Wednesday in 2019. So joining Ann and Luke, Andy Kriebel, and Lorna Eden on that. So hoping to continue to help anyone who's interested kind of grow their Tableau skill set. I mean, I don't personally see Tableau as a career path going anywhere for a while, hopefully. But if that's the case, and we still need to have people that are skilled in this tool that we know and love, and we want to hire these people, we want to promote these people and get them into spots that are going to set them up for a good career and a good life. And I think out of all the community initiatives, they're all great, but I don't think there's anything better than Workout Wednesday to actually grow your skill set. You can grow your design skills with Makeover Monday. You can learn how to visualize data, and that's really great. There's Visual Social Good, which will allow you to make impact with data, and that's really great as well, but there's nothing else that really, it forces you into a corner, right? Like you might not be comfortable with this, but we're going to help you through it. These people here that are running Workout Wednesday, we want you to succeed. We want you to learn these skills, and we want everyone to look at these challenges like maybe Luke does. I know you've mentioned, oh, I see that challenge. That's great. I think I can do that in 20 minutes. But that's not the same case for everyone. And that's like what I want to see happen. Like I work for an education company, I teach, and I just want to help that progress, right? I want everyone to feel as comfortable with Tableau as I do. So that's really what's coming from me, like, is just continuing to work on that, provide challenges, do tutorial videos. And hopefully that's my year, is just helping people learn.
I think it's in some case close to Curtis. So the goal is now to help newcomers. It has been a difficult year for me because I started a new job. I wrote a book, and it takes a lot of time. So my goal for next year is to do more Tableau and more Vizes, definitely. I'd like to try new things also, and I think Workout Wednesday will help me also, because I will always remember it was the eye of the sales of Sample Superstore. Keeping an eye on sales when you have this visualization and say, oh my God, I absolutely cannot do that. It's I'm really bad at what people like Kevin can do with, like, how do you come up with those ideas, and you, Luke, and Rodi, and many people. I'd always try to keep it simple, and I want to try to do things differently. And when I was practicing for the Iron Viz, and before the feeders, every visualization in Tableau Public, I always have one goal, is to learn something new. So I didn't know how to I don't have an example here, but every new Tableau visualization, it was for me, I had a goal to learn something new in Tableau, and I think now I'm doing less visualization. I've lost a bit of my technical skills, and I want new technical skills. I want to be able to create things that currently I'm not able to do. So yeah, and I think that's my goal. It's to step out of my comfort zone and to try new things.
That's awesome. And I think that a lot of people don't realize the amount of time it takes to write a book. I've helped write some chapters in a book a long time ago, and the amount of time that it takes to put together a few chapters, much less an entire book, is absolutely exhausting. And the publishing process and the review process just takes up so much time. So that, I'm sure you're just looking forward to having a lot more free time.
Yeah, more free time, exactly. That's the
And I almost like equate it to, it's like it's like a really weird analogy, but I feel like it's appropriate. It's like if you make a soup, you put it on the back burner and you let it sit, and you don't necessarily, like, you're tending to it occasionally, but you're not necessarily like spending all your time, but it's there. It's always, and you can't go anywhere. You always have to come back to it. So it's like you're always stuck to it until it's done.
You always have this in your mind, whatever you're doing. And
yep.
No, but it's and yeah, so I forget something, but for me it's important part of my goal for the next year. It's to grow the community in France, because we have a few people. We have Jonathan, who was the first Iron Viz, the first French contestant. Ivan with Zen Master, Ludovic, myself. Yeah, we have a few people. We are far geographically for France, of course. For you, it's close, but we need to make it grow and to to start growing the French Tableau community. I think it's important first.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tristan. I forgot to mention that. Like, I'm actively trying to do the same here in Utah. Like, our tug needs help. Anne knows that. I've vented to her before, so I'm actively trying to reach out to Tableau and whoever will listen to, like, let me get more involved there, because I'm, like you said, there's a few people in this community, in your community, and pretty much anywhere. Like, there's a couple good names that are super passionate about Tableau and what we do, and you need that to kind of help it grow. Like, if it's just there, that's fine, but it's really not going to do anything if you don't have those, like, super passionate voices behind it, right? Like, the Phoenix Tug is awesome because of the passionate people who run it. Minnesota is great. London is amazing. Like,
Minneapolis, fourth largest in the world, period.
Yeah, it's funny because I say the Phoenix Tug is #1 for Tableau enthusiasm. If you think about the people that are there, there's not a lot of prominent names necessarily, but the love that we have for our tug, I say, is unmatched by anybody else.
Yeah, I believe it.
Our producer and Anne's husband, Josh, was up here last week. This week. It's hard, or last week, and I'm losing track of my days. We had a Tableau user group, and he was pretty surprised that there were 100+ people showing up to a corporate campus a couple of miles away from the center of the city. And that begins with having a really good core set of leaders that can grow that enthusiasm. And what has happened via that enthusiasm is that we've had more community. If you can add 1 or 2 new passionate community members every year, then all of a sudden you have the snowball effect, right? You get 2 more, and then you have a sustainable base, and you're always going to have content to share and have people stand up to just talk in general. And then that brings in 1 or 2 more people, and then it really allows for growth. And again, it starts with what I believe is the leadership, and not being afraid to always find a way to have another meeting, even if the attendance was low, figuring out what to do next for the next one.
There's a friendly rival between your tug and the Phoenix Tug, considering this year's Viz contest and who took first and who took second for tugs.
And who took third.
Well, fair enough.
We took what, first and third?
Can't win them all. We got our good prize last year by winning that catch box, and no one else in the world has a Tableau themed catch box, which is just like a throwable microphone that's freaking awesome with a Tableau logo on it. It's awesome. We always have that to go with.
Don't start talking about competitions, Anne. You're going to watch out for Salt Lake Tug now.
If nothing else, that's what we should take away from this, is how competitive we are about Iron Viz. It's totally portable around other things. And, Tristan mentioned this early on, and it was really resonating with me as well, is that my competition is primarily with myself and what I'm capable of doing. It's never externally pushed onto other people and trying to be, unless it's maybe Luke. I'm not trying to be better than anybody else.
Oh, I didn't know that there was no competition here.
There's not. I'm giving you a hard time. You have that toward me. But in general, I think that's the best type of individual, is you're really trying to compete with yourself and outdo yourself every time. And that's, I think, if you look at the leaders in our community, those personalities tend to rise to the top because of what it is that they're doing.
So, Anne, I got to spin it on you then. I'll be the host for a minute. If your competition is yourself, you were highlighted at Iron Viz as the only person to get in the top 10 all 3 times. Like, what are your thoughts for next year around Iron Viz, or how you're going to compete with yourself now? Like, you've set the bar pretty high.
I know. So I'm not stopping. I've said this before. The first year that I did Iron Viz for all 3, which was 2017, I guess, I hated it. I hated everything. I hated the experience. It was really like the way we kind of described it. I felt very much outside of my comfort zone, and that I wasn't good enough to participate. interestingly enough, set a goal in my tug to say, I'm going to do this every year because no one in our tug is doing this. And I want to show up and demonstrate that somebody can do this. So 2017 was very uncomfortable for me. 2018 was actually kind of a dream where I got to create things that I wanted to create. But towards the end, and Curtis and Luke, you both saw this, I got very serious about, what does it mean? How do I actually get up on stage? Because I do want to be up there. I'm going to be up there for the idea of getting better, for the competition with myself. I also want to get up there to represent something. So I think it's really important. I think what I'm taking away from the conversation that you guys have, and I always think about this, and I have all that nice feedback, I have the scoring, where I fall flat is storytelling. It's just in the nature of my style and approach. It's very minimalist. It's very simplistic. It's designed to be inviting at best, and people don't necessarily have the time to do that. I don't like cluttering visualizations with text. So that's where I think I have to grow. And coming out of this, the idea that it's not necessarily me doubting my integrity or going against it, but that it's a growth opportunity to add that in, I think will help propel what it is that I do in 2019. The last thing I'll say as it relates to it is, by the last feeder, I got very specific about what I want to do, very narrowly focused on a topic. And I think that helps to draw out the story. So that's something I think I'll continue to do next year. But you can hear it in my voice. I really want to do it. I think it's going to be the most stressful time in my life if I actually am up on stage, and you guys have been a testament to what that experience is like. But make no mistake, I want to keep trying until they kick me out of the competition and say, you can't do it. Because I've grown so much as a result of this past year, and I think it's a great thing to try to achieve for your own personal benefit. Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, if nothing else, getting there for me helped me be more comfortable just speaking alone. Like, and part of growing yourself, like as a person, is being more comfortable sharing your thoughts and opinions and talking with others, like, for hell's sake. And talking to 15,000, 14,000 people really helps that. Like, if you can get through that, you can probably get through any other thing. So that's cool. And I think, like, if your words, not mine, if you can improve your written storytelling, like, I would be really terrified to compete against you on stage, because your verbal storytelling is on point. So that's exciting to hear. Like, you want to keep going and get better and eventually get there, which I fully think you will.
Well, we'll see, guys. We'll hope. I mean, I think it would be absolutely something spectacular. It's kind of funny because the friendships that I've formed, a lot of them are centered around that competition in general, both you, Curtis, and Luke as well. So I think that it would be, an honor to kind of be among that. And as you guys were talking about the people that have competed and won. So competed, it's a really small cohort. Won, it's even smaller. You think about that and how those people could fit into a room, or I think about like Saturday Night Live and how they have those jackets because they've been on there for however many seasons. It's certainly a special club to be a part of.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I value that camaraderie that we the unwritten camaraderie that Tristan and I have, and Timothy and Shine and everyone. Like, there's just this little spot in the world that we occupy. Like you said, we're all in a room together, and it's cool to have that, whether we even know each other or not. Like, it's nice to have that that feeling with a few other people in the world.
Luke, do you want to be put on the spot for Iron Viz 2019?
What do you mean on the spot?
So how many feeders have you participated in? 9?
9 in a row, yeah.
9 in a row.
Global feeders. Like, if I could do Europe, I would do Europe too.
Like, same. So what's your 2019 plan?
I love to participate in a nonlinear way in the competition in order to maximize the number of feeders that I'm able to enter.
What?
In short, I'm going to continue to do my own style and not worry about what the rules are, because I would rather continue to design and provide a diverse set of failures for people to look at. And right, I think in part people really want to win. You want to win. There are definitely a lot of other competitors that want to find their way on stage. And that means potentially changing their voice and changing their ultimate style and how they create visualizations. This competition ultimately changes people and changes their design style. And because as you practice and as you create things, what you create becomes your niche. And I don't want, and we've talked about this a ton, is I don't want to compromise my style to then conform to a niche. I know that I should be able to balance my style with the rules, but I don't care. So
Luke, what about this? So maybe I can win with you on this one. So you had shared like a book with me about like the creative curve and how exposure helps make things popular. If nothing else, if we have continued repeated exposure to a stanky original visualization, at some point it's going to grow in popularity, right?
That's right. So I'm just going to next year repeat the exact same type of visualizations that I created. They'll become more in tune with what people are seeing, and people will recreate them, and then they'll be so popular that they will become the style, much like anything with curves this year has become the style. Maybe it'll be a chord diagram next year that everybody's going to be able to replicate and bring into their visualization. And you've got to have a chord diagram, whatever it is.
You don't necessarily need to go against what you are to win. Also, when I asked for advice to Jay, it wasn't asking why didn't I win. It was how can I improve what I've done to tell a better story and to have a better dashboard. You know, because our job is to design visualization for currently for clients. I always need to do sometimes things that I'm not 100% proud of doing, or things like that. Sometimes you need to say, okay, I will go a bit against my own. And I think the goal of the data visualization is just to explain to the biggest amount of people something difficult, but we transform it into something simple.
Oh, I don't disagree. I was making more excuses than anything for having a long process. I am a slow by nature. I am a slow. It might come off like I can do things really fast sometimes, but my design process is really slow.
So as we wrap up this conversation, I want to give each of you guys an opportunity to sort of leave us with a lasting remark on, you know, what it is you want to communicate with the community. We've talked about your goals.
Yeah. Wrapping it up, going back to something you said, and like the reason you are competing in Iron Viz as a whole is just to be a voice or for a greater good, right? As we know, like it's very obvious at this point, there hasn't been a woman on stage for quite a while, years. And I know that becomes difficult. I don't know. I'm assuming that people who are women who want to participate don't see a destination for them. So like, where are you going if there's no destination? And like, to see you or potentially someone else up there or multiple women, I think would grow the competition as a whole, right? Because it gives you that picture of there's a place for me. So ultimately, like for the competition next year, and to wrap things up on my side, like I just hope that there's continued encouragement across the community just to show up, right? Just be there. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. That's okay. But the more that we can get people participating, the greater odds there are for that to happen. And to just get a more diverse experience on stage. And I think it'll provide like a whole different type of show, a different type of event for people to consume at the conference. And it'll probably make conference better as a whole and grow our community in the long run. So I'm just hopeful. Like I don't want people to win just because they are something. Like I want people to win because they deserve to win. But I am hopeful that we continue to see growth in the contest as far as number of entries go and diversity of entries. And I'm going to do what I can to encourage that where I live and with the people I know to be a part of that. And if nothing else, doing so will help them grow their skills, and it'll challenge them to be a better Tableau developer, author, whatever you want to call us.
I'm going to say something maybe controversial, but we need to all step out of our own boundaries and our own circles to find individuals that we want to support and get to that level. It goes beyond just our own networks and going, oh, that person's really good in our network. We need to find those people, the people who are on the fringe of our networks or just outside of them, who foster that talent. And if their passion is to become a Zen master or Iron Viz champion, then providing the feedback that's necessary to grow to that level. I feel like we talk about let's get people participating, let's get women participating, let's get people of color participating, but participation is not the same thing as fostering the growth and development of individuals. And that's the differentiator. If you want someone on stage who is who's a woman, who's a person of color, who is whatever background that you want, it begins by helping them and helping individuals grow. It's not just get people participating.
Right. And like you said, we sometimes, or a lot of the time, exist in a bubble, right? Like we have this thing in our head that the Tableau community is Twitter. I feel that way sometimes. And you go to the conference and you realize, like, wow, I talked to maybe 100 different people on Twitter, but there's 17,000 people here that all share the same, skill set as you potentially. There's people that you don't even know that are probably way better than you at what you do, but they're not going to be in your little Twitter bubble. So to your point, like I do want to start being a mentor more in my community. And by my community, I mean in Utah, like where I live, where I work. And if more people start doing that, like Tristan mentioned, you grow France's presence, right? There's going to be a better, like a naturally more diverse pool in the community.
To sum up, it's I think the important message is just to say to everyone that they should participate, and it will join what Luke and you Curtis said. It's just don't fear anything. Even if your first visualization don't make into the top 10 or top 5 or anything, just you don't care. You could enjoy it, and like Luke is still about after nine tries, still enjoy it and still wanted to do something, and really it's a famous phrase from Nelson Mandela, but it's always what I'm saying to people. Say no, I don't want to do that. It's I never gonna win. It's you never lose. Either you win or you learn. And for me it's really important to have that in mind, especially with community competition like the Iron Viz. It's people don't care if it's not perfect or if it's not good. You will receive feedback, you will improve. Maybe you will never get on stage, but who cares? You will have a big portfolio of awesome visualization on Tableau Public, and that's fine. Iron Viz is just a brand, a name, and you need to have 3 people going on stage and 1 winner to showcase what the Iron Viz is. But really, the Iron Viz is what's happening during the feeder when everyone try to produce something on a theme, and you so crazy things during 3 weeks, and you say, okay, that's the Iron Viz for me. It's showing what everyone can do with Tableau.
That's a great way to wrap up. I think it's more than just the spotlight at the end. It's definitely the process and the journey, and it's about the learning and the showing off the diverse things you can do with a single tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for your time. Really enjoyed this conversation and getting pretty deep into the nuts and bolts of the competition, but really talking about how it's impacted you.
And thank you very much for you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you both. Very great.
So you're up.
No one's on your left, Luke. Curtis is on your right. Point the other way.
Oh, so
That's
it's the
Curtis.
reverse. It's
Yeah.
the reverse. Got it.
You can say it like Jewel said, like Tristan Guillevin.